Hi, friends. I wanted to give a quick content warning before we begin. Today's conversation includes topics such as mental health, trauma, religious trauma, and suicide. My hope is that this episode brings understanding and hope, but I also want to encourage you to take care of yourself. If you need to pause or skip this episode, that's completely okay. We will see you in the next one. And if you are staying, we hope you enjoy this podcast episode. Well, hi, my name is Bailey Cook. I am the host of the Y Project podcast, and today on our podcast we have a special guest, Colin. He is my husband Sam's friend from college, and he is a social worker let me rephrase that. He's in social work right now with his master's degree.
Yep.
So he is here to share his story and to share any education or just really anything with us, and I'm super excited to have him here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I love talking about this stuff. So yeah, let's get started.
Well, Colin, let's kind of start from childhood. Tell me what your childhood was like and how you were raised and growing up.
Yeah. So for me, I was raised in Denver, Colorado. Was raised super LDS. Very, very like my parents are. They still are active. In fact, I'm the only member of my family that's no longer a member of that church. But yeah, just raised in a great family. And my family, I mean, we weren't perfect by any means, but very typical like middle class socioeconomic family. Didn't realize how much privilege I had growing up until like I became an adult and that kind of thing. But yeah, just kind of grew up very typical childhood. Nothing really super uh, stands out, with the exception of there was a little bit of like trauma and abuse that I underwent, in my childhood. And what's something that's super cool about it is my dad was a kind of a big perpetrator of that kind of stuff, that caused a lot of trauma and everything like that. But today he's literally like one of my closest friends. Like he's put in the work and he's changed. And like for me, he's just that regular. I know we're not quite to that topic yet, but it, it was definitely it was very challenging being raised with him. He was, and like especially being raised with a father that had intense anger issues, and then add all the stigma and the things that you do and do not do with the Mormon culture and the Mormon religion and everything like that. So I had my fair share of challenges, and my mental health was never really talked about. And I remember when I was a senior in high school, a kid that I knew, and I wasn't close with him, but I was good friends with his best friend, and he had died by suicide. And his name was Blake Mara, and the whole school was like shook, because he was a pretty well-known kid, super outgoing, just like everybody loved him. And that was kind of my first like real exposure to suicide and mental health and everything like that. And to get a little uncomfortable with you, something that I struggled with quite a bit, or I was told that I struggled with, was like a lot of like pornography and like masturbation issues and that kind of thing. I hope that's not too uncomfortable to say or anything like that, but
no, not at all.
I mean that kind of for me stemmed a lot of just because of like the Mormon teachings. And it was so deeply ingrained into me by the religion of my family that like I was never worthy. And so when that feeling of just never worthy, and then like learning about what suicide was and that was an actual option, it kind of just like awoke something in me that almost like triggered this, like, it's almost like it created depression for me. But it kind of was just always on the back burner. With that being said, my parents did really try as hard as they could, to give me resources to in the best way that they could. They really did try their best, and like I love them for what they did, and I'm still so grateful for like the way I was raised. But so yeah, grew up in Colorado, went to BYU Idaho, got kicked out, moved down to Utah. Did serve a mission before all that happened. I was in Seattle, long ago, because like something for me about my childhood was that I was always trying really hard to be Mormon. And looking back now, what that was like for me was trying to fit like a square peg into a round hole, is how I describe it. And I had like, in order for that to happen, you got to force it in there. And so I overcompensated, and I wasn't really the greatest person, kind of looking back on like who I was. I was not really open-minded. I wasn't really loving or kind, and I was judgmental, but that's because I was trying to compensate for this thing that I didn't feel was authentically me, but I was told what I was supposed to do, and like just kind of
Mhm.
went that way. Um, so yeah, over anyway, got kicked out of BYU Idaho for really stupid reasons, and then got excommunicated for even stupider reasons, and just kind of took my time and wanted to get back to church. But long story short, I just was like, this isn't for me. But I'm so grateful for my time in the Mormon church because it really
Mhm.
did teach a lot of things that I still hold true to this day,
Yeah.
in the sense of, like there is something greater out there,
Yeah.
and it's also like the importance of family,
Absolutely.
and just how important it is to be a parent. And like the thing that I've learned as I've grown up is just that that doesn't look exactly like what the Mormon church teaches, where it's like a man and a woman and their children. Like it can look so much different between like a man and a man, or a woman or somebody that's
Mhm.
non-binary, or any of those things. And that's something that I've really become passionate about. As I left the church, I've just found such a home among the LGBTQ community, even though, I'm straight, cisgendered, and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I've just loved that community so much. And that's just such a departure from the way I was raised. So it's been
Mhm.
really cool. But that's kind of like my long story short about my childhood and like where I came to be
Yeah.
and how with mental health. Yeah.
How is religious trauma, or how has that affected your journey in your life to where you're at today? Because I also dealt with religious trauma as a
Hmm.
teenager as
Hmm.
well. And so how do you feel like that has like affected into your adulthood? How do you feel like you can help those
Sure.
that have been through that?
Well, let me start by saying that I wish my experience was a little bit more rare, but I feel like religious trauma is a lot more common. Like, and I'm glad you bring it up because it is something
Mhm.
that needs to talk about. But to talk about what my trauma was for religion is like it was literally used as a weapon for me, or used as a weapon against me, essentially.
Mm.
And this
Mhm.
deep in stillness, because I was having these desires to that were very natural and are very like our sexual parts are as equal parts are as us as all any other part of us, right?
Mhm.
But for me, I was being told that because I was giving into that too much, and it was definitely like a little bit more compulsive like any teenage boy would,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um it was just this deep ingrained feeling of you're not worthy. And like I was kind of,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize this for a very long time, of just how deeply ingrained that belief was in me of just not being
Mm.
worthy. And so departing from, and like the way I look at my time within religion, and this isn't like exclusive to Mormonism or anything like that, it's just my experience,
Yeah.
is it was like the Mormon Church was kind of like the scaffolding that built out my spirituality.
Mm. Mhm.
And I am grateful for that. But the thing that it's really allowed me to do, and part of the reason why I love specifically working for and with the LGBTQ community, is because essentially all they really want to do is just be authentic. They're all just wanting
Absolutely.
to live their authentic lives, whether it's who they want to love, how they want to express their gender, any of those things. They just want to live how they authentically feel.
Mhm.
And that feeling was something that I shoved deep, deep down because, I
Mm.
was like, that's not the part of me that I'm supposed to be. And that's what I was told. But that deep, deep in feeling and in stillness of not being worthy is still being like uprooted to this day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's probably going to be there for the rest of my life. But what's been awesome is, and the reason why I think I'm probably going to stay in a very religious community like we're here in Utah, if I
Mhm.
hope that's okay to say,
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. Yeah.
is like there's this amazing community here within Utah of people that have experienced to some degree religious trauma. And I feel
Mhm.
like my journey was made to be able to support those people, because
Absolutely.
with
Mhm.
Mormonism specifically, and I do not hate on the Mormon church,
Yeah.
I truly believe that like if that's like what makes you happy and it makes you a better person, then like yeah. But for me, I would say it's given me this ability to really, really relate with a lot of people, and it's helped me, and I know it's helped them, and just how we can connect from like our departure from the church. And like it's just this really like crazy community. I mean, like I could go to a bar and almost any person I'm talking there was once upon a time Mormon and everything like
Mhm.
that. And
Yeah.
I became good friends with like a bouncer because they were Mormon and they served the mission and they tried to do it. But
Yeah.
it's been just like a really cool thing that I never would have thought would be able to actually help other people, as well as
Mm.
it not has me helping other people, but also has it's helped me in return as well,
Yeah,
just talking
absolutely.
about that kind of thing.
Feeling unworthy, I tie that a little bit or a lot of it to shame, right?
Mm-hmm.
That feeling of deep shame of who
Mm-hmm.
you are. Someone that is LDS, I look at some leadership that is over youth. If you are an adult that creates shame and fear, especially in years where the mind is developing rapidly for these teenagers that already deal with depression and anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and phones and social
And they're
media
just trying to
and
figure out who they are, like any
yes,
teenager
yes,
is,
and
right?
to bring shame into the equation and fear of either curiosity, of questioning their faith, of being unsure about who they are, of
Mm-hmm.
feeling certain feelings that they are now afraid of because they are taught that those are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It creates such a bad cycle
Absolutely.
that even like you said, you're like, for the rest of my life, I might have to work through this. Same. I think that so many people have felt that.
There is a giant shift in Mormonism, at least from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
of how people are doing what the guys in Salt Lake call like the cafeteria members, where
Mm-hmm.
they pick and choose what they want to live by and abide by, and
Yeah.
they're like, you either have to be all or nothing, and I think that's so beautiful, and I think that's what religion is really meant to be.
Yes.
Like it's not meant to be you have to do everything that we say. It's no, you take what you agree with and you apply it and you make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's really cool. I've seen that within my own family of how they're applying and living their own lives, and they're not being insanely strict about it or rigid. And one of the best people I've ever met is a clinical director where I'm doing my internship at Flourish Therapy. Little plug there.
Yes, love.
Dr. Lisa Hansen. Not only is she, and I do not exaggerate when I say this, a literal genius,
Mm-hmm.
but she is truly like one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. And she's a very active LDS member, but she's also a clinical director and CEO of a nonprofit that is not exclusive, but primarily LGBTQ clinical counseling.
Yeah.
And she's very open about it. And I love, she goes like, yeah, I believe this part, but I don't pay tithing, because she doesn't believe in like funding organizations that outwardly oppress anyone.
Yeah.
And I just have loved seeing how people have decided that, no, I'm not going to do everything that the church says I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I think is best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think religion really is.
I feel like therapy is really, because it's not as stigmatized anymore. Like with my parents' generation, you went to therapy if something was wrong with
Right.
you,
You were broken if you went to
right?
therapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so seeing so many youth and like so many young adults go to therapy right now and being able to learn that concept of like, okay, this I don't get, but this I do, and I love this, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to apply this to my life.
Mm-hmm.
Family's important to me, feeling the spirits, this is what's important to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to live by that. Create so much more positivity, I feel like,
Absolutely.
within religion. Because I'm
Absolutely.
like, that shame then is no longer there. They don't
Absolutely.
feel shameful for like, oh, I don't agree with this, or I
Yeah.
don't want to do this.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of
Yeah,
something that I've loved, and I don't really want to say who this was, but a very close
that's totally
personal
fine.
person that I'm very close with. They're endowed, and have been active in the church, and they still are to this day, but they don't wear garment bottoms. And this
Mm-hmm.
is a female person who was assigned the gender of female at birth, and she would get just a lot of complications downstairs.
Yeah,
In that,
absolutely.
because like there was just cleanliness and like I mean, this, I don't know if it's still the same anymore, but she would literally have these persistent issues
Mm-hmm.
with her vagina and with her uterus because
Yeah.
of the garments. It was literally in direct relation.
Mm-hmm.
But because she had that shame of, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, I made this promise of what I need to do, she would do it, but just suffer through it. But then she stopped wearing it, and she just stopped wearing her garments altogether. Not that she doesn't believe or disagree with them. She goes, no, I just don't wear the bottoms because it creates
Yeah,
health complications, like literal
absolutely.
health
Yeah.
complications that interfere with like her sex life, getting pregnant and all those things. And I thought that was just so beautiful of how like I'll wear the garment tops and just not the
Yes.
bottoms. And I'm
Yes.
like, that's what religion really does need to be. It's not like you have to wear all these things or you have to do all these things, otherwise you're not worthy. And that was like my experience growing up with it.
Yes.
If I'm not doing
Yeah.
the whole spiel of things, then I was not worthy. And that's just,
Yeah.
this idea of worthiness is, or shame is just not something I
Yes.
ever really can get behind, because we don't have to earn worthiness, or
Mm.
we're like there's never this thing that we have to do to become worthy, because we as people have this inherent value regardless of who you are, what you believe, who you're
Yeah.
attracted to, how you want to express your gender, anything like that, like, or what race you are. You have that value, and nothing, no matter how many people you decide to sleep with or how you decide to the clothes to wear or anything like that, that can never be taken away. So,
Absolutely.
but have you seen the movie Batman Begins? With Christian Bale.
Yes.
So you know
Yes.
that phrase where it's like it's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines you. Completely disagree with it.
Mhm.
Like, we are not our choices. Like, that's
Mhm.
not all we are. There's so much more to people
Absolutely.
than the
Totally
choices
agree.
that they make, and even more so, we're so much more than the mistakes that we make. And that's been
Absolutely.
something that's been really a challenge for me to try to uproot, for lack of a better phrase, of I am not just my mistakes, or I am not the things that
Mhm.
I do. Like, I don't have to do these things to gain value or gain my value back or repent or anything like that. It's like there's this
Absolutely.
value that will never ever leave me. And yeah, you're maybe some value in what you do with society can ebb and flow, but there's always going to be that
Yeah.
baseline of you are human and you deserve love and you deserve to be
Absolutely.
loved.
Yeah.
That's never going to be taken away, no matter what you do.
Yes, because there is always consequences to actions,
Hmm.
whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Like, if you murder someone, you will go to jail. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
and we of course need that in society. We
Hmm.
need to have some sort of
Oh,
order.
absolutely.
And at the same time, it's like you're still a person.
Sure.
Like, one time I had a great therapist a couple years ago where she was like, I want you to write down everything you've been diagnosed with, write down all the mistakes that you can think of, write down all the experiences that you've had in your life.
Hmm.
And I wrote all of this down, and she's like, okay, put that aside. Who are you? And
I
I was
love
like,
it.
I don't even freaking know.
Right. And
Like,
that's like kind
yeah,
of what we're really, or I mean, that's what I was taught. I don't want to say like
yes,
speak for everyone in the Mormon church or anything like that, but that was my experience in being raised in the Mormon church, that like what I do is who I am. And while it does impact you, of course, like,
yeah,
I don't want to say like you can just do whatever you want and you're going to lose your value. Like, you can decrease your value by like murdering people, but
hmm,
you still have value, like,
yeah,
because
yeah,
everyone makes mistakes. And that's the other
absolutely.
thing. I mean, that's kind of the other thing, like, try to talk about the positives about the Mormon religion. Something that I've really loved is just the idea of like being humble. And that was something I was taught, and I still try to do that today. And also the idea of forgiveness. I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in like, we don't necessarily have to go to an old white man and confess these things,
Yeah.
to try to
Mm-hmm.
move past it. But the idea of forgiveness is such a beautiful principle, because it's so relieving. It's so freeing to be able
Absolutely.
to forgive other people. And I don't think I would have had that had I not been raised in the church. Just
Mm.
the ability to forgive people for their mistakes, and I would hope that they do the same thing for me in return.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Colin, I love you
Oh,
so
thanks. I
much.
love you too,
Like, I
baby.
love being able to have conversations like this. Like,
Sure.
even though we live our lives differently, it's like the value of conversations like this is so needed. Like,
Absolutely.
we need to be less defensive
Hmm.
within the way that people live their lives. Because it's
Absolutely.
like being able to have conversations like this
Hmm.
brings so much joy and relief to others. Because I know
Absolutely.
even if we don't live life the same way,
Sure.
someone's going to hear exactly what you just said with your whole experience and be
Sure.
like, that resonates with
I
me.
hope
You know what I
so. I
mean?
hope so.
So
Yeah.
thank you for being vulnerable
Of
and
course.
sharing everything with the religious side of things
Sure, of
for
course.
you
I'm an
growing
open
up.
book, so here
Yes.
I am. Take it for what
Well,
it's worth.
right now you're currently pursuing social work
Hmm.
in a master's
Hmm.
program. Tell us a little bit about like what led you to pursue that
Sure,
master's program.
absolutely. So, long story short, I really just wanted to do one-on-one therapy.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to be a psychologist, and I wanted a PhD. And I applied to probably half a dozen programs, and I didn't get into a single one of them. But everything happens for a reason. Another thing I was taught by the Mormon
Yeah.
religion. Um, but I had to have like a honest conversation with myself, honestly, of like, okay, what do I really want to do? Like, why am I so set on getting a PhD? And it's because I wanted like the title and the accolades that came with Dr. Willardson. That sounded so
Mhm.
cool and it seemed so
Yeah.
awesome. But I kind of had to peel that back and be like, why do I want that? And I realized I did not have an honest conversation with myself about like, I just want to do therapy. I want to do one-on-one therapy. I want to do clinical
Mhm.
counseling, and I want to work with people on that level. And social work was it was just so funny, like going back and looking on my journey, like the idea of becoming a master's of social work just would randomly pop up and just kind of speak to me at times, but I'd be like, no, I want to be a psychologist. And after getting like, denied from a lot of programs and like different jobs not working out and everything happened for a reason, I was like, I think the master's of social work is going to be the best way for me to become a therapist. And I've loved every second of my program. University of Denver is fantastic. It's
That's so
been
awesome.
awesome. Yeah.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
And when do you graduate? How much longer do you have
I'll be
left?
graduating in March.
In
March
March.
of 2027.
Wow, you
So,
are at like the last
oh,
run.
I hope so, man.
So
Just a couple
that's
more
so
months.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and before we like started our podcast,
Sure.
we talked about how you have had some suicide ideation and
Mm-hmm.
attempts before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk at all about
Sure.
that, or
Absolutely. Ask away.
maybe, yeah, just whatever you're wanting to share about that
Sure.
part of your life and what that journey was like to you and how it led you to where you
Absolutely.
are now?
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
one thing that's
one thing
kind
that's
of
kind of
hopeful
hopeful but also
simultaneously
simultaneously depressing
is that
is that like
I've been diagnosed
I've
with
been
major
diagnosed with
depressive
major depressive
disorder,
disorder,
and
and
part
part
of
of
that
that for me
is
suicide
and that's
ideation,
not
and that's not
something that
something
I
that
think is
I
ever
think is
gonna
ever
really
gonna really
go
go
away. It's just
away.
more of
It's just
something that I
more
have
of
to
something that I have to
manage,
manage,
unfortunately.
unfortunately.
But at the same
But at the
point,
same point,
I don't want to
I
get
don't
too
want to
down
get
on
too
myself
down on myself about that,
do,
because I
and
do,
that's
and that's
obviously going to
obviously
spiral
going to
down into
spiral down
a
into
very
a
depressive
very
state.
depressive state.
But
But
you can't
you
cure
can't cure
diabetes.
diabetes.
You got to
You
manage
got to
it.
manage it.
And I just try to
And I
view it
just
in the
try to view
same
it in
way
the
where you
same
just
way
have to
where you just have to
manage
manage your mental health
and that kind of a
and that
thing.
kind
But
of a
with
thing.
suicide
But with suicide
ideation,
ideation,
I've
I've had
had a
to
lot of
have a lot of
therapy and
therapy
a lot of
and a
honest
lot of honest
conversations with
conversations with
myself
myself
of,
of,
what is the
what
real
is the real
reason
reason
for
for
looking at that as an
looking at that
option.
as an option.
And for
And
me and
for
my
me and my
journey, it's
journey,
always
it's
been just
always
because
been just
I'm
because I'm
suffering
suffering.
and I want to stop. Like, I want the pain to stop.
Yeah.
And it's been a long journey in working with that. I've been hospitalized twice because of suicide ideation and attempts. But at the same point, I'm also so grateful for those things because, I mean, it's a cliche, but cliches are true for a reason, where like you can't really appreciate the sunny days unless you have a lot of rainy days, kind of thing, And so for me, those really depressive moments of like struggling with suicide and just wanting to end my own life, it's, if I've been able to like fight through them and just get through that moment, it's almost like a springboard into like, let's get back to work and let's start taking care of ourselves. Because usually for me, my depression, I'm able to manage it, but then things kind of start to slip, real life happens. And one of my professors says, life be lifing, and that kind of thing. So the self-care things sometimes fall by the wayside, is being a parent and being in school and trying to work and all that stuff. It's like that wake-up call of, hey, you can't stop taking care of yourself ever. It's just this thing of, you gotta keep at it always. You can't let almost too long go without taking care of yourself or thinking of yourself or taking time for yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's been probably the most helpful thing for me, is just like allowing myself to take time for myself. Because for some reason I was raised with this idea, and I can never really pinpoint where it came from, but like my worth, like I always have to be doing something, like I have to be busy, I have to be productive, I have to be adding to society. And like, especially even like in social work, there's a lot of, I don't want to say pressure, but there's like some expectations to be like a social justice warrior, to be honest with you, and advocate for the marginalized. And I love that, and I want to do that, but
you're like, sometimes I need a little break.
Exactly.
You're like, sometimes I need to like hone it back in so then I can give back.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's why my program specifically with University of Denver, I've been so lucky with a lot of my professors that I've been able to work with, is that they are very adamant, like, hey, take care of yourself. And they're always so accommodating. There have been times, because I've been struggling with my mental health and my personal life, where I've just reached out to them and be like, hey, I'm sorry, this assignment's not going to be turned in. And they've always been like, that's okay. And it's been just so amazing, just the grace that they've extended me. And that's kind of what I've really loved to love about the field of working within social work and mental health therapy, is just like, you always want people to extend you that grace, and I feel like it's a lot more common working in that kind of a demographic. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I love
And to
that.
kind of like kind of sidetrack from something about self-care, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So my ex-partner, when she got pregnant, we were just dating, and it was very, very surprised. Like, it was not planned, it just happened. And I'd always say that if I ever got a girl pregnant, like, I want to try to be the father. We're going to try to make the family work and everything. And it obviously didn't end up working out, but that's okay. But when she first got pregnant, I remember thinking of, I have to put my family first every time. I have to put my family first, and my partner and my daughter, and like, they have to come before me. And that's what I just expected. And that, even during her pregnancy, before my daughter was even born, sent me into just a whole tailspin of a spiral, because I was neglecting myself. And that was the first time I actually was hospitalized and sent to a treatment center for suicide ideation. And it was in that place that I actually remember learning very vividly of, like, the best thing you can do for your family is put yourself, not like selfishly, and I've definitely been selfish for sure, but like putting yourself first in the sense of, you got to take care of yourself, because then you can actually show up better for other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was just my little plug for that.
No, I totally, and I think it's important to find a partner that helps you do that, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like, Sam has been so great at that with me being a new mom, and like with him finishing his master's program, I'm home a lot. And I'm like, most of the time, the only conversation I have all day is with the toddler.
I've been there. I've been the stay-at-home parent too.
Yes, but like having a partner that's like, hey, this Saturday, take time for yourself. Like, go do what you need to do.
Absolutely.
So helpful. Having a partner, or it doesn't even have to be a partner. It can just be like someone in your life that loves you, or that you're friends with, or whatever. That's like, hey, I'm checking in. You should go take care of yourself today, and you go and do it, and you have that accountability with someone. Like, I think it's so important, and taking care of yourself and filling your own cup allows you to overflow others.
Absolutely.
And so I totally agree with that. It's so important. So
well said.
Yeah, thank you. So, Colin, going back to the suicide ideation and the major depressive disorder that you've been diagnosed with, I love that you kept saying the word choose, where you have to choose to take care of yourself, and you have to choose to move forward. How do you do that? Like, how do you choose to take care of yourself and move forward, especially when you're in that state of very deep, dark depression? Are there other people in your lives that, like, or in your life that helps you to be able to choose to take care of yourself and to find help that you need?
Sure. I will say this: while my partner and I were together, she was very supportive of me trying to take care of myself. And like, one thing that she was always encouraging, and I'll always be grateful, is that she always, like, I'm such a social person. I'm an extrovert to the max, and I love being around like people, and not like big groups or anything like that. And when I became a dad, I neglected that side of me, interestingly enough, because I wanted to be home with my daughter, and I wanted to be home with my partner, who I loved so much at the time. And I loved, her daughter, her older daughter. And she had to remind me a lot of times to, hey, you need to go out and like hang out with your friends. Like, go spend the time with the boys and that kind of thing. Like, and it was always nice that she was super encouraging of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What was your question again, though? I'm not sure I answered it.
How are you choosing to continue to move forward and take care of yourself, especially when you're in those deep, dark states? Because I, as someone that has also dealt with depression, and like, when you are in that darkness, it is hard to choose sometimes. Sometimes you truly feel stuck, and like, you can't get out of it.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know if you have like any advice or education or experience of like how you are able to move forward with choosing to stay here and choosing to continue
therapy.
Life.
My answer is therapy. And like, it's such a vague term, but I mean, therapy is so obvious, and like, finding a therapist that you jive with and is actually beneficial to you it's a challenge, but it's so worth it, whatever. The other thing that I've learned about myself over the years is how important it is the way I speak to myself. Because you're always thinking of yourself, I'm this loser, I'm not good enough, and or I'm not worthy,
Yeah.
that becomes your reality. And
Absolutely.
so when I'm like, I'm not great at it, but something I'm always going to be actively working on is trying to catch myself when I'm starting to talk negatively of myself. It's so cheesy and it makes me even, I've been doing it for years, but I'll still like have conversations with myself in the mirror. And I'll like force this is not something that's going to work for everybody. It works for me.
Yeah.
But I have to like force myself to like say positive things about myself because I just get so down and so critical of myself. And like, I just beat myself up so much when I make mistakes or when things go wrong or they don't go the way I wanted them to or anything like that. Um, but I want people to extend me grace when I make mistakes, and I realize that I need to extend myself grace as well.
I love that. I love that you said our thoughts become a reality, because that's so true. Even like when I was in my OCD treatment center, they would say that a lot of us love to predict the future because we would think of so many negative things until it would happen, and they're like, you're predicting the future because you're allowing your thoughts to become
Absolutely
what's real in your life when it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And so I think too, like, because for me as well, I hate talking positively to myself because it feels cheesy.
100%.
But then I know I'm like, if I don't do it, my life's gonna suck today.
Yeah,
and I need to, yes. And it's like, okay, I know I feel stupid, but it's just with me.
Yeah.
And that's, you just
no
gotta like,
yeah.
And if it helps you, it totally does help you because your mindset is so powerful.
Absolutely.
Yes, there's a chemical imbalance
Absolutely.
for all these people that are diagnosed with these mental health challenges. And also, it's like you can also help holistically with therapy, medication, all these other things.
Yeah, you can try everything, but that's so much easier said than done.
So true.
And I just want to put that out there. Like, there are challenges, and then there's even like systemic challenges that like are roadblocks for people, even like low income individuals. If you're even on Medicaid or you don't have insurance, then like it's so difficult to be able to get the therapy or to even get into a doctor to be able to get the antidepressants, or maybe you don't have the ability to afford a gym membership to exercise and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put that plug in there because like we're talking about it and it seems
we don't want to be like, go do it right now.
Right.
You can do it. You got it.
You can and you do, but it's tough. It's tough
and it
to
takes
do.
time.
Absolutely. Like patience with
now
yourself.
I'm like, do it all because that's what we're all doing.
Absolutely,
right?
We're all.
But I wasn't doing this 5 years ago.
Oh, same.
Same. I
Same.
wasn't doing this 10 years ago. I was still very depressed and struggling to just take a medication every day.
Sure.
I couldn't even get out of bed. I can't talk. I couldn't even get out of bed to brush my teeth for a year. Right. Yeah. So it's like being on the other side of the journey. It's like, yay, But I know so many people watching this are in the middle of that deep dark state where it's like once you get to being in a great place, which you will. Like, I want people, you will get there. Even if you're in the deep dark right now and you're like, I can barely take my meds all day, like, we got you. We know that you're there. Yeah. And we'll sit with you in the uncomfortable space. Absolutely. Like, let's sit together and feel that, Absolutely. And I want to provide hope that someday there will be light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
And you can start to find more things that will continue that healing journey.
Absolutely.
The deep dark place of it is so uncomfortable, and it's so hard to even just do one thing.
To go back to
go ahead.
To go back to one of the things that I do agree with from Batman Begins is
I love that that's the reference.
I know, it's such a great movie because there's so many little like notes and little diamonds.
Sorry, continue. I just love.
The phrase "the night is always darkest just before the dawn" is something that I really do have to remember, and remembering it doesn't just help, but that's one thing that my dad has been shockingly good at is just saying, I know it sucks right now and it's okay that it sucks, but this isn't forever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things that I've really had to try to implement and just remind myself, like, this will pass.
Absolutely.
And like, it doesn't feel like it, and sometimes you don't even see how it's even possible. I've felt as hopeless as anyone's felt, and it's just so important to be able to remember that it's not permanent. It's not forever.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I feel like I can say that, and it just doesn't do it justice, when you're in the thick of it, right? But
Oh, for
it's
sure.
it's still a truth, right? It's still true.
Yeah. No, because me and you both have dealt with suicide in different ways, right? Suicide ideation, attempts, even friends that have gone through that. Um, when you're in the middle of that space too, I always hated it when people are like, "It's okay, you got this," right?
Right.
But something that always did impact me was having one person that was like, "I'm gonna just sit with you,
100%.
and we're just gonna be uncomfortable together,"
Yeah.
and knowing that you can live in that space and that's okay.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be okay right now.
Yeah.
And it's okay to sit in the dark
And
for a little while.
And a plug for people who are supporting other people who are working through mental illnesses or mental, not disabilities, but just mental struggles, mental health struggles.
Yeah.
It's so important to just, that sucks, and to just sit with them. Like,
yes.
One of my closest friends, Ryan, I hope he sees this, like, he has been so helpful in the sense where I've been coming to him when I've been struggling. I've been very honest with him, and he's like, he never tries to fix it. He never tries to be like, "You got this. You're going to get through it. Come on, buck up and pull yourself up by your bootstraps." He just like, that sucks, and I wish I could say something that's gonna make you feel better, but nothing. Like, and just allowing me to be vulnerable and authentically hurt in that moment is so healing. I hope I can't swear on this.
No, you're fine. No, go ahead.
But sometimes swears can really only drive the point home so well.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure I get that plug in there. Like, it's a challenge. It's uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And if somebody comes to you and is trusting you enough to be vulnerable and say, "Hey, I'm not okay," and to just say, "That sucks. I'm sorry, but I'm still here for you." Do you know Brene Brown?
Love
I would
Brene
be
Brown.
shocked if you didn't.
She's my
Always
girl.
a plug. Oh, I love
her.
everything that she's done.
Everyone
TED
just
Talks,
go
books.
follow her on
Seriously,
everything
like,
and listen to her. Love her. Yes.
Literally, like, one of the things, like, it doesn't happen very often in people's life, or at least in my life, where like a single thing changes your perspective drastically.
Yes.
And it just completely snowballs this beautiful change. For me, it was the first time I ever heard of Brene Brown, and she talked about not just vulnerability, but then I saw her video about empathy versus sympathy. And I think I'm so happy that you talked about, like, it is uncomfortable when people open up to you, and it's uncomfortable to open up, but we're talking about just kind of being the supportive person right now. It's so uncomfortable, but that's the good, how do I say this? If you're uncomfortable with that person, then you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what real empathy is that you're not just imagining what this person is feeling, but you're also tapping into yourself, something that triggers that same feeling. And you're feeling it together.
Yes.
And those moments that I've had with a handful of people throughout my life have been so pivotal. Not just like healing for people to be empathetic towards me when I'm struggling, but for me to like be empathetic with them when they're opening up to me. And I have to go into a like kind of a dark spot where I am feeling kind of what they're feeling to the level I can. Sometimes all you can really do is imagine. That's sometimes what you have to say. Like, that sucks, and all I can do is imagine. But like, holy cow, that's got to be so tough, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah,
I
love that. I love Brene Brown.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched that empathy versus sympathy video, go watch it right now.
Link in description below.
I will literally link it in the description below, because that like, I watched that during my OCD treatment center. Sure. That changed my whole perspective of loving others, and then also loving myself. Of like, wow, like, if I look back in the reflection, like, how can I have empathy for myself to be able to have that for others? Yes,
absolutely.
Like, such a full circle moment
there. Love that.
Well, I want to get more into your social work
program, let's do it.
And just more into like what you've been educated on. So, there was a question on here that I want to ask. It was, oh, what is one thing you've learned in your social work program that you wish everyone knew about mental health? That's a big question. But if you want to touch on a couple things, you totally can.
That's tough.
So there's definitely like a few things. Um, it's still hard to kind of formulate it because there's been so much. For me, it's one of the bigger things that I wish everybody knew that I learned in my social work program would be that there are a lot more challenges for people who are not white, straight, cisgendered, or middle class. Um, like the systemic oppression that happens to people of color, to indigenous people, to anyone that's not like part of the heteronormative society or and that's heterosexual or anything like that are like they're literally pushed to the outskirts of society, and that's been, it's not like any single group or one person, I mean maybe, but like I'm trying to think of how to say this, like basically of like when people, I'm just gonna say it,
Yeah, just say it.
basically how much more white supremacist America actually is. And I don't mean that like neo-Nazi or anything like that. I'm not saying that like that's a super big part of it, but like this whole idea of like the thing that really shifted my perspective when I was going through like the first part of my program was the idea of constructs. And I was really struggling with what that meant. And one of my professors, I met with him after class, and I was like, "What is a construct?" And it's basically other people telling what other people's experiences are. Like me trying to tell what an experience was for like what slavery was like for a black person back in the day, or what it's like to be a black person in America now. And then the other thing on top of that is the idea of like being colorblind is innately oppressive and racist. You know, because it completely, because unfortunately in America with where we're at, and I'm not like blaming any one person, there is a monumentally and like statistically bigger challenge for people who are not white. And that's been the thing that's been most surprising to me in how, oh, we don't want to see the person, or we don't want to see the race or their skin color, we just want to see the person. That completely negates all of their experiences because they do have experiences because of their skin color or because of their gender expression or identity or their sexuality. And that has been wildly eye opening to see. Just it's almost like it's called colonization in my program. Like basically ever since the get-go of like Christopher Columbus coming here and his mass genocide of the indigenous people, and basically just pushing this white supremacy forward. And it's been very surprising to like learn about the statistics of like how much more difficult it is to be successful if you're not white, or how much more difficult it is to do honestly anything in this country if you're anything but white. It's crazy. And it's been a tough one to swallow. I remember my mom when I was growing up, you know, very Republican, still conservative, and I love her, but that's not how I am. And when I was growing up, that's how I was too. And one of the things that I remember very distinctly as a teenager talking about it, I don't remember the conversation, but I remember her saying that like Republicans think that like the few should conform to the many, and Democrats think that like the the many should conform to the few. And I didn't really realize what that meant, and I agreed with her. I was like, "Oh yeah, you need to be like us," but that's what they call whitewashing, where you need to be more like me, and like, and that's why I mean when you look at like what happened with the Native American or the indigenous people, you know, they came in and like, we know better than you, and your way of life is not the way to do it or anything like that, and they just completely tried to, for lack of a better phrase, whitewash their culture and wipe them off the face of the earth because they thought that they were superior.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still very obviously in the systems and the systemic issues that we see today. When you look at like the numbers and the statistics of like the spread of wealth is something that I think is very interesting. Like you look
Mm.
at the most wealthy people in the world, how many of them are people of color or indigenous people or, you know, homosexual or anything like that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
absolutely.
that's been the thing that I've really loved about my program that I've learned that I wish more people would adopt is becoming like an advocate for the marginalized.
Mm.
Because when we advocate for the marginalized, when we develop universal things that everybody can do that's like actually suited to their needs, we all benefit. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we started implementing the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, and we started implementing like ramps, like not just people with wheelchairs benefited from that. People who
Yeah,
had like chronic pain benefited from that. Like
yeah.
when we start to build a society and systems that help the marginalized, everyone benefits. And that's been
Mm-hmm.
something that I just wish a lot, if not everybody, would know. Ultimately, I think people should just be able to have the ability to be their authentic selves and have the equal opportunities. But, you know, it's just such a complicated system. And also, just being curious is the best
Yes, I
thing.
love that. Yeah,
I that's been the thing that I've learned because there's so much divide. You know, I'm right, you're wrong, and that's just never going to solve any problems. If anything, it just keeps us divided while the richer
yeah.
get richer.
It
You
creates
know, that's
so much
literally what we're seeing.
division.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They want that division because it keeps the powerful people in power.
yeah.
But if we were to just kind of add a healthy dose of curiosity, like, oh, like if somebody were to use one of those words that I just said, and they'd be like, well, why is that not an okay word with me? Like, why am I not okay to say that around you? Instead of just getting defensive or like, oh, well, I'm just going to say what I want. You're a sensitive little snowflake or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, like, and I try to do the same thing, you know, like I
Yes.
trying to approach people's opinions with just curiosity and just
Yes.
have because we don't have to agree on everything and you don't
No.
have to make it your life's mission to advocate for the people, but it is a good thing when you hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm being retarded," to be like, "Hey, man, it's 2026. Let's come up with a better word to use." You know,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
that's just that's just my take on
Yeah,
it.
I love it. Because whether or not you personally have been affected by something in the world
Sure,
that maybe you don't think is a big deal, other people have.
absolutely, and it's still a
And
very big problem.
yes, and it's always just great to be mindful.
That's kind of like the thing that I want to just give this last plug before we totally
Yeah,
move
go
on. Is
ahead.
just I just wish more people would be more curious. I guess that's kind of the long
The long
last few minutes
answer.
is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say. Is like I just wish people would be just more curious about people that are different from them and not be so afraid to ask those questions. I had a beautiful experience with on the golf course just a few days ago where the person who's in charge of like making sure everyone's in order, they're called the
Mhm.
starter, you know, he was asking me what I do because he sees me there all the time. And I was like, oh, I'm an LGBTQ therapist. And like, I have a lot of pride with that. And you could tell he was a little bit surprised by that answer.
Yeah.
And he asked me something that I'm so grateful he did. So why would that population need like exclusively mental health? And I'm like, I'm so glad you asked.
Oh, I
Let me
love
tell you
that.
about it.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it was like that's the what we call in social work the micro level of advocacy, you
Love
know.
that.
And
Yeah.
I just wish more people could be like, whoa, that's interesting. Why? Like, tell me more about that. Why is this a thing that's needed? I'm like, well, let me tell you. Have you ever, you know, and go into it. But that's
Well,
kind of the last.
I want to bring this up. I did not know that that was like a realm of therapy to like
Mm-hmm,
specialize in. That
mm-hmm,
is so freaking cool. I don't know why that
absolutely.
never came to my mind
Sure.
because there's trauma therapists
Well, it's
and
because
sexual
you're
therapists
straight
and
and cisgendered.
yeah, it's
It's
something
not
because
something
I've
that's in your
never
exactly,
experienced, right? And
exactly.
so I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Like so put that out there.
Yeah,
There are therapists for that
absolutely.
specifically to help
Flourish
you.
Therapy in Utah. We're all over the
Yes.
place. Nonprofit. It's an amazing
That
place.
is so cool.
Yeah,
So, oh my gosh, Colin, that's so awesome. I can I leave a link below to any?
absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
leave a link below to
yeah. Flourishtherapy.org.
Flourish Therapy. Okay, I'll leave a link below to that. So,
We're always
and
accepting clients.
yes,
We have
contact us if you need
subsidies.
anything else, and we
Absolutely.
can get you in because that is
Yeah.
so cool.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm
And we don't. I
loving.
also want to make sure I put this plug in for
Yeah.
Flourish. Like, even though it is primarily an LGBTQ like clinic, we take everybody. Like we don't turn
Yeah,
away
absolutely.
anyone. You know, like I have a decent caseload, and a decent amount of them are just regular, straight, cisgendered white people,
Mm-hmm.
and they come to us because I mean we have people from all over the country coming to Flourish because we're one of the few nonprofits that provides clinical counseling.
Wow, that is
So
cool.
you don't have to be queer or trans or anything like that to
Mm-hmm.
get therapy. I mean, if you just need therapy, it's a great place to start because it's a nonprofit, and we literally can
Yes,
provide three free therapy for people who qualify for it, and it's such a beautiful place to
that
work,
is
and everybody
amazing.
that works there is an absolutely wonderful soul, and I've been
Wow,
so lucky to work there.
that is so cool.
Yeah, sorry, I
Okay,
didn't think we were going to say that, but
yeah,
yeah,
no, yeah.
that's
So
what I'm doing
we'll
my
leave it
internship
down
right now.
below. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
thank you, I
so
appreciate that.
that's so awesome. If someone listening feels stuck, overwhelmed, or hopeless right now, what would you want them to know?
I know it's going to be something that they've heard, but as a person who has attempted suicide and struggled with depression and literally never felt, or has, I shouldn't say never, but has felt that I will never amount to anything and that I'm just going to be this waste of a life and what's the point? It gets better. Um,
Mm,
for anyone, whether you're struggling with mental health, OCD, figuring out if you're not identifying with the gender you were assigned at birth, or if you're not straight, or it, any of those things, like there is life after the suffering. Please, so many people don't believe that, and I understand why. I
yeah,
really do. Um, from my perspective and from my own experiences, do I know exactly what everyone's going through? Of course not. But like,
yeah.
I know what it's like to feel hopeless and to feel like the only solution is to end everything, to end my life.
Mm,
And if anyone out there is feeling stuck, like, know that I have so much love for those people and for that person. Like, I truly love you, and I don't need to know you to love you. And I'm grateful that you're still here. Please continue to stay, because it it will get better. It may not, you may not know how, you may not understand if it's even possible. You may not even think it's possible, but like,
mm.
I promise you from the bottom of my soul, it will get better.
I love that. Thank you, Colin, for being so vulnerable. I did all of that. um, I love that you said that there is still life after suffering. That and that to me tells me that you can still feel happiness and
Absolutely.
joy and have amazing experiences even after suffering and mistakes and
Absolutely.
shame and wherever anyone's at watching this video. And the last question that I asked all of my guests is what is your why? Why do you choose to stay? And why do you choose to continue to live your life?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I have
Yeah.
a lot of whys. Um, the first one that's the easiest answer for me, but is still just as important, if not the most important for me, is my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I know that may not be applicable to other people, but the other reason why I choose to stay, and this is something my dad tells me all the time, and I've been so lucky to be able to actually be to experience it finally, just as like an intern in the Masters of Social Work program, that there are people that only I I don't want to say like I'm the only one that can help, but there are people that I will be able to help.
Yeah.
Um, if that's something I think about a lot when I'm really struggling with suicide or just ending it or wanting to, when I'm feeling depressed or anything like that, like because of what I'm doing with my life and with my job, I know there's going to be somebody, and there already has been people that will be positively impacted by my existence. And you don't need to be a
Mm-hmm.
therapist or a master's of social worker. You can be any person that your existence will make a difference in someone's life.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of go back to what I wish everyone would know, not that it's directly related to social work or my program, but you staying and people who choose to continue to tap into that resiliency, they're going to help someone. There's going to be a moment in their life, because it's such a big problem. So many people struggle with it. You can't go anywhere without running into somebody that really is struggling with it, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
If you choose to stay, not only will you benefit for it, but other people will benefit as well. And that's kind of one of my whys,
Mm.
is that I hope that doesn't sound like cocky or egotistical
No,
or
it
anything
doesn't
like
at
that, but
all.
like, I know that there are experiences that I've had that I can use to help alleviate somebody's suffering out there. And that's a big reason why I choose to stay.
I love that. I don't think it sounds cocky whatsoever
Thank you.
because I do believe that we're meant to connect with certain people in life.
100%.
I believe, like, and just from my own experiences, having a certain therapist at a certain season in my life was critical to my healing, and no one else could have done that for me. I do believe that
Absolutely.
because I know how much it has affected my life and being a parent and being a wife
Mhm.
and being me, like just being me with no labels.
Absolutely.
And so I do believe that, Colin, you are going to be a therapist that someone truly needs. And I believe that for everyone. We are all here for connection.
Absolutely.
My
I
answer.
I cannot say how much I love what you're saying, because connection is what heals us.
Absolutely.
Connection is what helps us to remember that we're still alive. Whether it's connection with yourself or with others, or your identity, or any part of yourself or others, that's really what it's about. So I
Yeah.
echo that, and I appreciate you saying that and sharing that.
Perfect. Yay. Well, thanks, Colin. You have been so awesome.
Oh, thank
We've
you. This
sat
has been
here for a
amazing.
while,
That's okay. I've loved every
but
second of
okay,
this. Thank you so
good.
much for giving me this
Yes,
space to
of
share my
course.
experiences and my
No, I'm
thoughts.
so grateful for you.
Yeah, I love
So,
what you're
and
doing.
you've brought so much enlightenment to so
Oh,
many new topics and things that I wasn't expecting today in the best way possible, if that makes
absolutely.
sense. So, I'll leave a ton of links that we've discussed below,
Sure.
and I'll leave even more links of anything that Colin also wants to give to me.
Sure.
And yeah, reach out to us if you have any questions. So thanks,
We love
Colin.
you.
We
Truly.
love you. Thanks for being here.